Welcome everyone to another episode of the Fighter and the Analyst. I'm your host, GK The Fight Analyst, and this here is my man, the Joker himself, Peter Petties. What's up, bro? How's it going?
I am chilling, can't complain. Happy May 28th. We're coming up on June. Uh,
Yes,
Other than
sir.
that, hopefully you guys been cashing bets on these last few cards.
Absolutely, man. I'm glad to be back. Fights this weekend. Fights for, I think, the next 4 weekends in a row. I think 4 or 5. And then we have a week off, and then we're back with more. It's getting pretty hectic coming up to end the year because we've missed so many weeks. They need to cram in as many fights as they can. So it's gonna be jam packed. It's gonna be bananas, Fight Island stuff, UFC Apex. We got a lot to talk about. But first off, how are you doing? Have you been training? What's new? What's going on? Tell us everything.
Life is good. Outside of that, I've been jogging, trying to keep my weight down. Right now where we're at, and I'm based out of Maryland with Team Lloyd Irvin, where we have a few guys. We have Sadiq. I think he's top 15 now. He might be literally sitting at number 14 or 15. And then we have another guy who I know is going to be on the contender this year. I don't know if I'm allowed to tell it, so I'm not going to say anything. But I know he's going to be on the contender. One of the guys I've been training with for about 3 or 4 years. I remember when this guy walked into the gym. I'm telling you, when that bet comes, I'm telling you, put all the money on him because he's going to get you guys paid. But outside of that, I'm coming from Lloyd Irvin in Maryland. We're probably the biggest team you can find in Maryland. Right now, unfortunately, with COVID-19, Maryland is closed. So we are not allowed to train in the gyms. We can only do outside, but also our particular county in which the gym is at is closed. So myself, I will be running it down to Florida with my boy
Hey.
Kay. Actually, in 2 days, Saturday, I ship out at 9 o'clock. Going to see my homeboy Ung, who I've known since I actually got into MMA before I was professional and before he blew up to the ONE FC champ. I've known Ung when he was grinding back in the Ring of Combat days. He's been inviting me for a few times, so right now it's the perfect time. Going down to Hard Knocks or whatever you want to call it, Sanford MMA nowadays for about a month. I'll be out there until June 27th. About 4 weeks, just grinding out, trying to lose some weight, get back in shape, and mess with some pros. I know a few guys, actually not even a few. I shouldn't even put that on them. A handful of guys. I know they have a handful of UFC guys, handful of Bellator guys, handful of PFL guys that I can get some work in and just clear my mind. The biggest thing is we are in a pandemic. The good thing is I luckily already worked remote from to the point where it didn't really twine with my training. So I'm able to train full time and come back and make a decent paycheck. So I'm gonna go down there, push myself to the limits, and get some work in. I'm excited to see what Florida has to offer. I might try and venture down to ATT, but I don't know how strict it is down there. So we'll see. But I'm going down there for a month, see what's up in Florida, and have some fun. Get punched in the face, punch some people in the face, and see what I can learn. So
Man, that's great to hear. Definitely that you're getting back in there. You're coming down here to sunny South Florida, getting some work in with some killers. Kamaru Usman, Gilbert Burns, who's in the main event this weekend. That's fucking awesome. One of my favorite camps as well, Hard Knocks. So, man, that's gonna be a lot of fun. You got some good food down here. Great weather. You'll definitely lose those pounds just running outside for probably like 10 minutes because it's so damn hot down here.
oh, I know.
It's crazy. It's bad, But I mean, there's a lot for you to do if you haven't seen much down here either. So it'll be a good time. And hopefully we can link up and we can get one of these live together. Get this podcast live
Hey,
going if you got time.
I'm down, man. I mean, other than random stuff that Ung's probably gonna force me to do, I have my own Airbnb. I have a car. I am doing good.
Hey,
I can navigate in Florida. So We'll see. We'll get some food. We'll link up for the podcast. I'm totally down.
Sounds good, man. That's gonna be great to get on the road and take the show on the road and do it live. But yeah, man. I mean, there's a lot, I guess, to talk about. A lot of fights coming up, like a lot of fights coming up. UFC 250 coming up next weekend. It's gonna be fucking bananas. That fight card is sick, top to bottom. I can't believe they have Aljamain Sterling, Corey Sandhagen as a 3-rounder. That's how you know that fight card is stacked, top to bottom. And I'm very excited for that. What's your thoughts on Cejudo retiring after such an amazing performance?
Honestly, from the MMA, from being an athlete in the sport, you can't go wrong with that. I mean, at the end of the day, I hate to say, most people don't understand how underpaid MMA athletes are. You look at Cejudo, he's done everything you can name off. If we name off Dillashaw, he finished Dillashaw. He beat Dominic Cruz, who was there before, who virtually brought in the lighter weight classes. Um, I'm trying to think who else. Oh, Morales. You can't beat that. And you add on top of that the Olympic championship, no matter what you say about the cringe, the viewers, Cejudo's at the top of the game. And I understand, even if it's a negotiation standpoint, at the end of the day, he has accomplished everything that he can accomplish. And from being in the sport, what I could say is the sport will take you over. And what I mean by that is I understand what he's saying on the interview. Like, look, I have a girlfriend. And what people don't realize that is for Cejudo to say, look, I have a girl, you got to realize when he was in the Olympic Training Center, that's 6 days a week. For me, I was a Fargo wrestler. And what Fargo is, it's a high level wrestling program where you get shipped off to Fargo, North Dakota, and you're training here. You have 3 training sessions as an 18-year-old. Like, not a adult, an 18-year-old in the summer where you're training 8:30, 12:30, and 5:30. Let alone when you finish your training sessions, you don't want to talk to any girls. Like, in high school, you're texting a girl, but in between any workout, you just want to sleep. You know what I mean? So for Cejudo, I understand where he's coming from. For Cejudo to say I want to retire, it's not just a money ploy. It's more of his life. His life has been all he is an athlete of high level athletes. He's just a piece of meat. And now he's like, look, I've done everything that the world expects of me. I want to live and have some fun. I want to party.
That's true.
I want to have a girlfriend. I want to have a life. I want to get married. So I completely understand. If the UFC or MMA is not going to pay him his due, which is like $1 million, NBA contracts are multi-millions. Football contracts are multi-millions. If MMA isn't going to pay him that due, then he's the best in the world. It's either way, if it's a negotiation ploy or if it's an MMA ploy, I respect it. And like I said, coming into our former podcast, I'm a Dominic Cruz fan by loyalty, but I respect what Cejudo did. He went out there, he beat the only question mark that can really be on his record, which is Dominic Cruz, and he walked off into the sunset. What more can you ask for an MMA athlete to do?
That's right. I mean, he's done everything he possibly can do. Why go off with a loss? You know what I mean? Why go in there and try to fight Jan or these other up and coming guys when he just beat 2 legends and the number one contender, actually 3 legends and the number one contender in the division as well. So, I mean, he really just has absolutely nothing to prove on top of being, Olympic champion and all that. It's just insane. His career, and I just sucks to see him go. He got so good, and just after the DJ fight, got that controversy, but then he came a bat out of hell, and I don't know, that fight evolved him to be as good as he is. It was just insane to see his growth from the very first knockout from DJ to where he is now. So kudos to him, and I hope we see him back again. He's talking about fighting Volkanovski At 145, that dude's crazy. I mean, he could do it. I don't think he would win, but he could do it, and it would be definitely a competitive fight.
Toss up, toss up. I mean, at the end of the day, I think people like I was honestly, if I was to bring it back to college, I'm a history major. So when you think of Olympics and what it's test to measure, what I would say is Henry Cejudo is at the top of the physical food chain. If we were to hunt and we had weight classes, Henry Cejudo is the best 125 pounder and 135 pounder in the
Yeah.
world. And what I say is that if we were hunting for food, if we didn't go to a grocery store, Henry Cejudo would literally murk anyone in that weight division, maybe even 45. And you just have to look at it from that standpoint and you have to respect it. I understand he might not bring in the best viewers. He's not the best. He's not Connor when you listen to him on the mic. He is kind of like, oh, what's that guy saying? But the day he gets the job done. He does his job. He, if you had to put your money on, Henry Cejudo is going to get you paid, man.
Yeah, I mean, he got me mega paid when I took him over Cruz, but I mean, he was plus money like for like 3 straight fights. It's just insane. So yeah, sucks to see him go. I think he'll be back eventually once the money is right. He's gonna get a really high 6 figure payday to fight some big name at some given point. But yeah, with that said, let's get down to the nitty gritty on these fights this weekend at the UFC Apex. Before we start, let's let's say that this fight is going to be at the UFC Apex, which means they are going to be fighting in the Contender Series Octagon. This is not a regular size UFC Octagon. This will be a smaller size Octagon. So you have to take that into account when capping all fights for this fight card. With that said, let's start off on the prelims. I believe they're fighting at 145 since it's on short notice. Between Chris Gutierrez and Vince Morales, it's sitting at a pick'em at minus 110. How do you see this fight playing out?
I'm not playing this, honestly. I know you're the numbers guy. I don't know enough about either one of these guys. To be honest, I don't care about either one of these guys. Um, if I had to do a coin flip, I think I know who was the first guy you were mentioned.
Chris Gutierrez.
I think I may know his name. I might not, but it's not my forte, I could say.
All right. So, breaking down this fight, at first I really didn't like and really want to pick a side, but now knowing a little bit more in depth on Chris Gutierrez, and now that it's a smaller cage, I think it helps Vince Morales immensely. And the line dropped on him. I think he was a plus 130, plus 140 underdog. Now he's essentially a favorite. He throws much more volume than Gutierrez, almost double the amount of volume. He throws 12.41 strikes per minute. Gutierrez is only throwing 6.64. So that's a massive difference. Now you take it the fact that I heard on an interview Gutierrez just had knee surgery before this fight. Not saying it just happened. I know he probably went through the whole rehab process and that, but I never like taking anybody on a knee surgery right out the gate, especially when their main weapon is their legs to begin with. Throws a ton of leg kicks. I think he throws over 32 leg kicks per fight. So I think it's going to be a real detriment to his ability to throw leg kicks with that surgery. This is the first fight back after the surgery. So I think all of that plus the pressure of Morales, he's very good with his boxing, very crisp. And I think he's just being more active, getting in his face and just throwing haymakers. He knocked down Benito Lopez in a fight that arguably he probably won, and Benito Lopez was just throwing leg kicks, just like Gutierrez did. He hit him with a 1-2, knocked him down. Probably should have finished him, but either way, he probably should have got that win. And I think Morales, he trains with Ricky Simone, his cousin. He's been training for this fight. He's been training throughout the pandemic. He helped get Ricky ready for his fight against Ray Borg. So he was working with him out in Pacific Northwest. He was in his corner for the fight down here in Florida. So he's been getting in work as well. So I think this is the right time for Vince Morales to really get some shine and put on a good performance here. And we're getting him a decent line, -110, even money. I'm taking a side on this one, and I like Morales to win, probably via decision. Next up in the bantamweight division, we have I think, a great fight between Louis Smolka and Casey Kenny. Right now, Casey Kenny is a -270 favorite, and the comeback on Smolka is a +230 underdog. Who do you got in this one?
Man, it's tough, honestly. I mean, where I come from, this is like the fight of two ages. So for myself, I was a wrestler background before I got into MMA. And where I thought, I was like, man, all the guys who beat me in MMA, I would knock them out. So that's why I got an MMA. So where I am, I met Luis back in 2012, 2011, when I was first getting in MMA. And Casey, I look at as just a strictly grinder wrestler with some striking. If I had to lean on it and put my money on it, I'm leaning toward Casey. Um, I'm probably, for me personally, just so you guys understand, I'm probably not going to bet on this fight. I like Luis, but I can't trust him against a wrestler like Courtney Casey, who's going to just go for the takedown, make it an ugly fight, and win. And that's kind of how I look at it going. I mean, Luis Smoke, I know he went through some alcoholic issues. I know I'm not sure if he's in California right now, but I know he switched his training to California, but he's originally from Hawaii. So I can't really just trust him on the whole striking. I know he got in prematurely to the UFC. So if I had to put money on it, I'm going with Casey. But I'm up in the air. Let's listen to the numbers guy, my man GK.
I really like. I think this is a gimme fight for Kenny in a way, because if you look about it, look he fought. Look who he fought coming into the UFC: Ray
Mhm.
Borg, Manny Bermudez. Weight disadvantage there. It was a catch weight of 140 pounds. Okay,
Yeah.
and Bermudez is arguably, when he was fighting at 135, he was the biggest 135er by far. It wasn't even close. 5'10", and he couldn't even make weight. So, and then he goes against Marab. So if you look at those guys, and then you get to Louis Smolka, okay, where does the problem lie? I don't think he has a ton of power in his shots. I really don't see that. He doesn't have a lot of pop. He doesn't throw so much more volume than Kenny. Really, he only throws 9.17 strikes per minute. Kenny throws 8.48. So they're right around the same. But where the difference lies is the wrestling. Smoker gets taken down at will. He made Matt Chanel look like a D1 wrestler out there. Got the body lock takedown with ease. It wasn't even a struggle for Chanel. And then he got tapped out by a triangle shortly thereafter that. So he made him look good. Smokers really has not beaten anyone good. Not one good fighter has he beaten in his entire UFC career, even on the regional scene. After he lost his last fight, in that which he got released, his next fight was a gimme fight against somebody that was zero wins and 0 losses on a regional scene. So that's the kind of competition he's fighting to get back into the UFC. And I
Mhm.
think if he didn't have such an amazing manager in Jason House at Team Iridium, I don't think he would be in this situation in the UFC. Because I mean, he's 16-6, didn't fare well. I mean, he's beaten middle of the pack flyweights, and I just don't see him having anything that's really going to deter Kenny in winning this. As long as Kenny just goes in and uses what he knows is going to win, which is his wrestling, I think it should be an easy day for him. I know the line is pretty crazy, -270. If you like paying the juice, I'm not against it, because I think that's the right line, and I think he should win fairly easily. I do like him by decision. I think it's -119, but I also really like parlaying Casey Kenny with Roosevelt Roberts, minus 131. Kind of get that juice down a little bit. And we'll talk about Roberts in a little bit, but I do like that as a good two-team parlay, safe parlay. But moving on to one of my favorite fights on this card, actually, probably my favorite fight on the card between Tim Elliott and Brandon Royval in the flyweight division. Right now, Tim Elliott's a minus 170 favorite, and the comeback on Royval is plus 150. Who do you got in this one?
Man, I like Tim Elliott. And you know what it is I came up in the same Titan FC when he was fighting there and got released from the UFC. What I would say is Tim Elliott is a loose cannon. So he's gonna fight how he fights. If he gets taken down, he's gonna do jiu-jitsu how he does jiu-jitsu. If he gets up, he's gonna do some weird MMA Dominic Cruz / I might get punched in the face. Um, I call it hillbilly footwork. And it's just like, he's going to do whatever. He doesn't give a fuck. He's going to come forward. It's going to be ugly and he's going to be in shape. But if I had to choose and put my money on the line, I'm going Brandon Royval. And it's more of a risk versus reward. I can't risk my money on Tim Elliott because I just feel like where he's at in his career, he's just trying to get a paycheck.
Yeah.
He's gonna beat some up and coming guys, but he's gonna take an ugly shot and get guillotined possibly. Take an ugly shot and get armbarred. His striking is ugly. There's just so many factors, and I feel like I watched Brandon Royval on a few LFA cards, and I've been impressed. He's
Me
one
too.
of those guys who's been on the scene for a while, and he's one of those guys who have put in their time. He hasn't really been gifted a fight. He hasn't really been gifted any up and comers. He's just put in his time. He's took his losses. He's took his
Yes.
wins. He's
Yes.
just gotten better. So if I had to really on a sleeper bet, I would bet Brandon Royval, but I can see how people would bet both sides.
I'm 100% with you. Agreed. 100%. Um, I just can't place my money on Tim Elliott. I just really can't. I mean, he does have, the tools, but his mind is just never there. He's just all over the place. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
he doesn't remember the second and third rounds of his last fight. He blacked out in his last fight. Doesn't remember anything. I mean, that tells you right there where his mindset really is. I mean, also he hasn't been training all that well. I mean, he's been used to having the PI because that's why he moved out to Vegas. He hasn't had the PI for this fight. It's on short notice. He's been training in his garage. Don't like that whatsoever. At least Roval has had his teammates around him. He's training with Chris Gutierrez. He's got James Krause helping him out a little bit. His Mark Montoya has been there. So he's been in the gym. He's been getting ready. And he's been getting ready for a Contender Series fight this month in June anyway. So he was getting ready. He was in kind of getting in fight shape. And I think he's a good up-and-coming prospect. He's 10-4. And like you said, he's got his losses already. So he doesn't know what it's like to take defeat. I mean, he knows what it's like to take defeat. He has he's come through adversity. He's gone through the adversity. He has the fastest submission in LFA history too. So I mean, he's super dangerous on the feet. He goes forward, throws a ton of really good combinations. The leg kicks I think are going to play very big dividends in this fight here to stop the movement of Elliott as well. And two out of the last three losses for Elliott were by submission as well. So you see where the problem lies. I know he's a good wrestler. I think he's a two-time All-American wrestler, Elliott. But he just doesn't hold position at all. He's got 39 takedowns. He's given up 30 guard passes as well. So he's one that's looking to take you down and advance his position, but he never really does advance the position because he gets swept or someone's going to get back up. I really do think yes, Elliott will land takedowns, but Roval's got to get back up. He's got to put a hurting on him. He's got to put a pace on him that it's eventually going to break Elliott. And I really like plus 150 on Raw Dog in this fight. So moving on in the light heavyweight division, we have Jamal Sweet Dreams Hill taking on Clitson Abreu. Right now, Hill is a small 120 favorite, and the comeback on Abreu is plus 100. How do you see this one playing out?
Honestly, I'm a little biased. I always like to admit that in the beginning. I know Jamal Hill from management at Sucker Punch, so I will say I really haven't had much time to research on his opponent. So I'm gonna have to rely on Jamal. I know from his recent performances, from the Contender to the UFC in Charlotte, he's looked pretty good. So I have no reason to doubt him. Um, I honestly haven't had the time to research, so I'm gonna leave that to the numbers guy.
Um, so, from what you've seen on Hill, do you think he can stop takedowns?
Um, I think he has a decent like high school level.
Because that's going to be a big problem. Like, I know Clitson Abreu is not the best offensive grappler, but once he gets it there, it's probably all she wrote because he's probably the best fighter that Hill is going to face right now in his young career on the mat. Abreu, I think, is a black belt in jiu-jitsu. He's got 10 wins by
Oh, well.
10 of his 15 wins are by submission as well. He submitted Victor Nemkov. He submitted Johnny Walker as well. Unfortunately, in his UFC career, he's 1-2, defeating Sam Alvey. And then another loss against Gamzatov. I think he probably should have won that fight, but that dude's another tough Russian that was able to defend takedowns, and Magomed Ankalaev, who's also very tough fight as well. It's a very close fight. I was leaning towards Hill if this fight was in a regular octagon because of his reach. He's got a 5-inch reach advantage. He uses it very, very well. His striking is very good, very fast, very crisp. Love his leg kicks, love his 1-2s. I just love his striking. If this just was in a bigger cage, I would have been all over him. But now you're condensing that cage, and now you're letting Abreu get more ground and push him back against the cage because Abreu's just going to come forward. He's going to bully him against the cage, and if he lands just one trip, I don't know if he's getting back up. I don't know. I don't know. And those question marks, I'd rather take the underdog, knowing that he's massively good on the ground, and I've seen Hill get taken down 6 times in his last fight. I know it was against damn, I forgot his name. He just got released, but he was also a judo black belt. So I can't really fault him there, but if he does get taken down, that's just my big worry. And being the small cage, I would have to go with Clitson Abreu at plus 100. Not gonna go anything crazy on there, but I do like Abreu to win just because of the small, close proximity and him just dragging him to the mat. So next up in the featherweight division, we have a fight between Billy Quarantillo and Spike Carlisle. Right now, Quarantillo is a minus 135 favorite, and the comeback on Carlisle is a plus 115 underdog. Who you got in this one?
Whew, that's a rough fight. I mean, normally that's my weight class. I've been matched up against Quarantillo a few times. Fights fell through on the regional scene for one reason or another. Spike Carlisle, we have one guy at my gym or one of our affiliate gyms who we say is a lookalike. Just kind of looks just like him as a ginger, comes to fight, and it's just interesting. We're always joking at the gym. Um, the one thing I will say is Quarantillo comes to fight. He's a gamer. And what I
Yeah.
mean by that is he's gonna show up, he's gonna get his takedowns, he's gonna do what he's due and not really care about the crowd. He's just looking to get the job done. From the Carlisle fight that I've seen personally, I was impressed. He came in there. He came to hurt. I believe the guy's name was Alan Cruz. He landed a good head kick and then finished him with a nice elbow before unanswered strikes. I think it's a good fight. I think you can't go wrong with either side. If I had to lean from an MMA standpoint, I'm always going to go with the wrestler. And this is even coming from an MMA striker preference. If I had to put my money on anyone, I'm putting my money on someone who's a wrestler because I would always aim that the wrestler's going to get it to the ground before the striker knocks the other guy out. And that's just
Sure.
odds. And this is me being a realist from being an MMA fighter in the game who looks to take people's heads off. This is just where I'm being safe with you guys. So, if I had to choose, I'm going with Quarantino. He's been in, I feel like he's been in a bunch of high pressure situations from the Ultimate Fighter to, I believe he's been in one other before the Ultimate Fighter, but he's had he went to the Contender after the Ultimate Fighter, so he didn't
Yep.
even get signed from the Ultimate Fighter. And I thought he had a great fight on the Ultimate Fight on the Contender. So I thought he
Yep.
had a great fight there. So I think he just sometimes when you go through skill sets and you can't choose someone, you have to look at experience. You
Yep.
have to look at what a person's been through. So like, for example, I think the best case is myself. I've been on a Contender. I've been on PFL. At the end of the day, I look at it as something where I'm not really pressured. And you have to look at what the pressure of a high pressure situation gives a fighter. I don't care what nobody says. If a fighter goes into a thing and they say, I don't care what the fans are saying, I don't care what the situation is presenting, they're lying. They really are lying because at the end of the day, we all know this is the difference between having an average life and making a 50K paycheck. And if you ask who wants to make 10K or 50K, everyone's going to take that 50K. And
Absolutely.
for me, I think when you've been in that situation and you lost or you haven't really come up in that 50K situation, it's a different mindset to where someone who's first been in there, you're just happy to be on that situation. And then after you miss that opportunity, there's another thing where you're like, all right, I got another opportunity. Whereas Quarantino, he's had opportunity after opportunity, and he knows if he loses someone like Spike, there may not be another opportunity. He's had those eyes with Uriah, with Dana, with all the different eyes on the Ultimate Fighter that if he loses this to Spike, I hate to say, not even knocking anyone like him, but a lesser known name, it's kind of like, all right, dude. I mean, what are we gonna really do with you? And that pressure is something. So I'm going with Quarantino, honestly.
I'm definitely with you on this as well. I think the experience is going to play a major vital part in this fight. They're fighting at 150 catch weight because short notice fight. Um, last 150-pound catch weight for Carlisle, hands were on his hip by the beginning of the third round. So I think the weight's an issue. His cardio is an issue. He's only been out of the first round, I think, 2 or 3 times out of his nine or 10 fights. So I mean, he's a ball of fury. He's got some power to him. He's going to push forward. He's going to throw some crazy strikes, but I just think Billy's going to be better everywhere. I mean, he's going to put a pace on him, so he's going to be going backwards. He's not going to be the one dictating the pace, and I think Billy's going to be the one initiating the grappling very, very early to wear him out. I think if he initiates the grappling early on in the first round, I think Spike is probably going to gas out within 2-3 minutes in the first round, and then he's going to take over and get a submission in round 2. That's how I foresee this fight happening. And like you said, he's been into pressure situations on the Contender Series. He went in there needing a finish. He went through some crazy adversity in the first round where he was put into some crazy positions on the mat against Camuela Kirk or something like that. Very, very good jiu-jitsu fighter. I mean, way better than I thought he really was. But he got out of there, and then he put up some crazy pace and pressure on the second round and broke him, just absolutely broke him. And I think that's what's going to happen here. Spike's going to be gasping for air when you really all that muscle. I just think he's just going to gas, and that's what I'm getting at. We don't have much to go off of Spike because I mean, he didn't have that much fight time against Alon Cruz. Yeah, he looked good, but like, how much do we really know from him? He faced absolutely no one on the regional scene except for Fernando Padilla, who I think he's pretty a good prospect at 145 pounds, but um, I'm going Billy Q here, and I like him at -135. I think the under 2.5 rounds is a pretty good bet too, because chances are this fight's definitely not going the decision, because I think between the two of them combined have 16 finishes. So, or
Wait,
no,
who did you
19
say you were
finishes.
going to?
What?
Who did you say you were going to?
Billy Q. Billy Q. Qualintilla.
Oh, okay. I heard De La Cruz for a second.
No, Billy Q.
All right.
Quarantillo. I'm really
That's
bad with
what I
these
thought.
people.
That's who I thought you were going to, but in my head, I heard corn Spike for some reason. I was like, what? I think that's the
Nah,
opposite
I'm not.
description you were given.
Nah, man. Definitely going with Billy. Like I said, I've been a big fan of his as well. I've been watching him since the Tough House and all of that. So I've been following him on the regional scene, and he's finally getting to the point where he's finally here, and he should be here. He's someone that should be here.
Mhm.
I think Spike just made the most of the opportunity that was given to him, on short notice in his last fight. Because if Alon Cruz didn't need an opponent, I don't think Spike would be in the UFC right now. Yeah, I just don't think so. So
Mhm.
I'm taking Billy here -135. Next up in the women's flyweight division, we have Caitlin Chukagian taking on Antonina Shevchenko. Right now, Shevchenko is a -130 favorite, and the comeback on Chukagian is a +110 underdog. Who do you got in this one?
I'm going Caitlin Chukade again.
God.
I'm going to give you guys some insight. So here's where I'm coming from it. I am a DMV East Coast guy. I remember when Caitlin fought Sarge on the regional scene before they were even in the UFC on CFFC. I thought Sarge won. Caitlin might have been gifted the New Jersey decision. Now they're both in the UFC. Tibi, whatever her name is. I feel like she only gets up because of her sister Valentina. I feel like she only gets like props because of her sister. I would say in lion fights, she lost. I went to lion fights. My boy was fighting in like pure Muay Thai, probably like a year and a half ago. Antonia was on there before the contender series, and I swore she lost. And then on the contender series, she looked okay, but nothing impressive. I think she only gets up because of her sister. And even the last fight, I thought she lost before. I think she might have
Well,
finished
she
her.
did lose. She lost to Roxanne Modafferi.
There you go.
Split decision.
So yeah, I just don't. I think she gets a lot of props because of her sister Valentina. So where I have to say it is, Caitlyn does a good job of keeping the distance. She strikes. She's in and out. It's a really ugly style of striking, but if I had to give the insider insight, I think she's long for the division. I think she fights at 125. Is that 35 possibly? But
125.
there you
Yes.
go. I think Caitlyn is big for the division. I think she can't. She keeps Valentina at a distance, and I think Valentina honestly gets a lot of preps because of Valentina. And I'm leaning towards Caitlyn on this. I mean, I might be the underdog, but I'm telling you guys, you might make some money off this bet.
I just, I just, I just, I just always have to fade Caitlyn because I just don't think she's good, like at all, like
No, I'm
even remotely, like
no like what
JoJo.
I'm telling you, Garrett,
No,
is I'm not arguing that she's not good. What I'm saying is Caitlyn reminds me of a stepsister of Holly Holm. Like,
yes,
and what
yes,
I would
yes.
say of Holly Holm is not good from a skills department, but she's just a big girl for the division and she uses her natural attributes really good. So she keeps the distance, she'll throw the head kick, but it's an ugly fight, but she gets the job done. And that's where I look at Caitlyn as. Like, they're like stepsisters. Caitlyn is the 125 of Holly Holm. That's just how I look at her.
Essentially, yes, but a much lesser version of Holly Holm. Let's just put it that way. But yes, I can definitely see that comparison. Makes sense. But I gotta take Shevchenko here. She's got everything going for her right now. You know, she's coming off a great win. I know it's against Lucy Pudilova, who's quite trash. Get it, but it was impressive. The armbar that she got, she showed more than her striking. Two-time Muay Thai world champion as well. Her striking numbers across the board are better than Caitlyn everywhere, other than the volume, where she throws less than about a little less than 4 strikes more per minute, but she lands only 32% of her strikes. Shevchenko lands more, 4.9 per minute to 4.11, 4.90. And then you have Shevchenko's landing 57% of her strikes. She's only absorbing less than 2, while Caitlyn's getting hit like crazy. She's getting hit over 4.5 times per minute as well. So she's giving a punch and she's taking one at the same time. And Shevchenko's bigger as far as, muscle goes. She's way better in the clinch, like massively better in the clinch. I think that's going to be the difference maker here because of the small cage. That, I think, plays a major factor. I think I probably would have laid off Shevchenko a little bit if this cage was regular size because she's able to, stay on the outside. But I think Shevchenko is going to be able to get in the pocket and really land some heavy shots, more heavier than Chikagian, so she doesn't throw a lot of heavy shots at all. And Valentina has already fought her. Antonina has already been in. She's been in a fight camp. She's been getting ready for a fight, and Chikagian just took this on a couple weeks' notice. So I just think everything it was going in the direction of Shevchenko in this fight, and I think we're getting a good line on her, -130. I'm definitely gonna put this fight on mute. That's for certain. I do not want to hear this fight whatsoever. I do not want to hear Valentina yell the entire time. I don't want to hear Caitlyn yell when she's throwing her punches. I mean, that place is going to be echoing like crazy throughout that fight. And I can sure that you're going to be very annoyed while watching it. So if you get annoyed, put that mute button. But yeah, I got Shevchenko winning here, -130. Next up, in the strawweight division, we have the heaviest favorite on the night, Mackenzie Dern, taking on Hannah Cifers. Mackenzie Dern is a -440 favorite, and the comeback on Cifers is a +350 underdog. Do you think Mackenzie Dern should be this heavy of a favorite?
Yeah. I mean, we have this saying at the gym that skills pay bills, and when it comes to Mackenzie Dern, she's at the top of jiu-jitsu. I come from a big jiu-jitsu school where they compete in jiu-jitsu as a sport. What I mean by that is a gi, belt, everything. You think of Augusto Mendez, you think of all of the high jiu-jitsu guys. This is where they put it on the line. And Mackenzie Dern is one of the best. And I firmly believe if you had to take a place, I would also who's dominated in their respective sport as opposed to the person who's just the MMA guy, you know. So I'm leaning towards Mackenzie Dern. I don't really know enough about Hannah Cifers, but if I had to take a blind bet, which I'm not betting that much on Mackenzie Dern to get me paid. But if you were to, I would say you're pretty at a Mackenzie Dern could probably pull guard and armbar this girl. But I'm not taking a bet. But if you wanted to feel comfortable with that, I will say that.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I mean, I don't think Cifers really presents that much of a threat on the feet. Yeah, she's going to throw more volume. That's a given. She's going to land more. That's a given. But I don't think she's going to land anything where Mackenzie Dern's just not going to walk through it, throw an overhand right, get in the clinch, and just drag her to the mat. And then that's all she wrote. I mean, like Cifers is like a fish out of water when she hits the mat. Angela Hill transitioned effortlessly while she was on the mat with her from half guard into mount and finished her from strikes in the mount. So for Angela Hill to do that to someone so effortlessly, you could tell that Cyphers really has no ground game whatsoever. So I do like Dern. Don't like the price on her. I'm taking her to win in round 1 at plus 179, and I'm taking the under 1.5 rounds at plus 115. I think she gets her out of there within the first 2 to 3 minutes of just get her against the cage, either get her back against the cage and then choke her and bring her down from there, or just get one of those jiu-jitsu trips and land into side control and work our way from there. But I think a first round submission, first round win for Cyphers, plus 179, good odds. And I really do like the under 1.5 rounds at plus 115. Really not much else to go into stats right there because, to be honest, I can't see Cyphers winning. She could, and she could really just say screw me and all that. But I think the right side is taking Dern here by submission in round 1, under 1.5 rounds. Moving on in the lightweight division, we have a pretty interesting fight between Roosevelt Roberts and Brock Weaver. Roberts is the third heaviest favorite on the card at minus 350, and the comeback on Weaver is plus 290. So what's your take on this one?
The limited knowledge that I have on Brock Weaver, he just seems like a brawler, go hard type of guy. Roosevelt Roberts, long for the weight class. I think he's like 6'4", maybe 6'3". His reach is huge. I mean, at 55, he doesn't seem like too bad of a striker. So if I had to go all, I'm leaning towards Roosevelt Rogers. Just haven't been impressed with Brock Weaver from the whole Contender Series to his recent UFC debut, where I think it ended in a DQ win. Outside of that, yeah, I'm leaning towards Roosevelt Rogers, but I'll leave it to the numbers guy. You tell me what it is.
I do like Roberts a lot in this fight. I think he possesses the tools to beat Weaver pretty much everywhere. Weaver has been taken down in majority of his fights, almost religiously. He gets taken down in his fights super early. He got taken down by Devin Smith. I know he's a good collegiate wrestler, but he's been taken down by a ton of people. Charles Bennett took him down. Like almost everybody has taken down Brock Weaver. Kazula Fargas, the guy that he just fought, took him down, controlled him for majority of the first round before the illegal knee. I think Roberts is good enough to get this fight to the mat. He's looked good in the clinch. He's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu brown belt. I think he's going to do well, and I know he doesn't throw a ton of volume, but from what I've seen, Brock Weaver doesn't throw a ton of volume either. He pushes forward, and he'll throw a couple strikes, but he doesn't move his head off the center line. He's just coming forward. Kind of reminds me of when Thomas Gifford fought Roosevelt Roberts. He was just a guy that's going to come forward and pressure and try to throw bombs, but he really didn't land much. And all Roosevelt Roberts really had to do was just throw a jab and jab straight, and he was able to land at will. And I think the same thing is going to happen here, but I think Roberts is going to really pressure him in this fight, break him down, take him down, and just ground and pound him out. I just don't see where Weaver really has an advantage. The only way that I see Roberts possibly losing is if he gasses when grappling and he lets Weaver back up. If that happens, then things get dicey. But if his gas tank is all there, I think it's his fight to lose. I don't see any way that Weaver is better than Roberts. He's not better on the feet. He's not better on the mat. Roberts is better everywhere. As long as his gas tank is there, he should dominate. And obviously, yes, you're right, Dave. Weaver has grit. He's tough. He's tough as nails. That's the reason why he's in the UFC. Let's be honest, because he doesn't make it look pretty out there. I've seen him training on Instagram. He's doesn't look that great, but the dude's tough as nails, and I give that to him. I like his background and him and his story, but I just think Roberts has the skills. He's got the skill set to win this fight. Very good technical striker. Long, rangy, like you say, 6'2", 73-inch reach. That's kind of unheard of in 155 pounds. So
Mm-hmm.
I think he's going to do very well in this fight. Obviously, I'm not suggesting anyone lay minus 350. And like I stated earlier in this podcast, I really do like pairing him up with Casey Kenny. I think those are the two safer plays on the card other than Mackenzie Dern. And you can get those two at minus 131 as a two-team parlay. Really like that there. So next up, we have a fight that we're pretty much going to not touch base too much on because it's just a fight that someone took on, I think, 2 or 3 days notice between Gabriel Green and Daniel Rodriguez. Actually, Rodriguez took the fight normally on short notice, super short notice against Kevin Holland. But then Kevin Holland got hurt, and now Gabriel Green is making his UFC debut at 170 pounds against Daniel Rodriguez. Do you know anything about either of these two fighters?
Nope. Not even gonna lie to you. Not at all.
I feel you. Unfortunately, the line right now, Rodriguez is a minus 360 favorite, and the comeback on Gabriel Green is plus 300. I don't see how Green. I mean, he's just a regional guy. I haven't seen much tape of him. He looks fit. I give him that, but he hasn't fought in I think 2 years. Hasn't fought anyone good. He's fit. He's beaten Leon Shabazian, so I give him props there. But I think he had surgery, which is why he had the 2-year layoff. And I think he's only getting the call because I think he's got a good management team, obviously, and and I think he just he was there. He's close by. He's ready to go. He fights at 155, so this could be his first fight at 170. So he's definitely going to be the much smaller fighter here, and I can't take either one of these guys. I'm passing on this fight altogether. All I know is I'm taking Daniel Rodriguez in DraftKings. I'm taking him in DraftKings because he's still only 7,300. Kudos to DraftKings for not screwing that one up. So, yeah, Daniel Rodriguez is a DraftKings play, but that's it for me. Moving on to the co-main event of the evening, we have in the heavyweight division, Blagoy Ivanov taking on Augusto Sakai. Right now, Sakai is a minus 115 favorite, and the comeback on Ivanov is a minus 105. What's your take on this one?
Honestly, I don't know enough about these guys. When you said their name, I was like, oh, I thought I knew them, but nope, don't know them.
This is a very, very, very tough fight to call. I mean, numbers wise, if you look at the numbers, you think, okay, Sakai should definitely win. He's on really good volume at 11.98 strikes per minute, opposed to Ivanov, who throws 8.13. Sakai also lands more, 5.51 to 3.09. But I just think Ivanov has fought better competition. He's been in there with some really good fighters, Derek Lewis, Ben Rothwell, Junior Dos Santos, those kind of guys. Sakai, I think his best win was like a split decision win against Orlovsky. I mean, he's beaten Cheick Kongo and Bellator. Not sure he lost to Cheick Kongo in Bellator, but he's bounced around, and I just don't think. I don't know. I just don't think he's beaten anyone as good as Ivanov right now, and I think maybe the combat sambo background Ivanov could be a difference factor here because he is a smaller guy. Maybe he can use that for his leverage and take him down. Tough fight to call. I really don't want to pick either side here. What I do want to pick here, and I really like a lot, is this fight goes the distance, and that's at minus 150. It's a very good play. I think you give this fight 7 out of 10 times, it will go the distance, and we're getting a really good line there, minus 150. I think majority of Ivanov's fights go the distance anyways. I mean, he went to the distance with Rothwell, where they were landing leather like crazy, man. Junior Dos Santos, he went 25 minutes with. Derek Lewis as well. He went the distance. So I think it's tough enough to take Sakai's punches, to be real. So I think this fight goes the distance at minus 150. Moving on to the main event of the evening, a fight that I've been waiting quite a while for because I feel Tyron Woodley has been ducking for Gilbert Burns for a minute. So right now we have Tyron Woodley taking on Gilbert Burns in the welterweight division. Right now Woodley is a minus 185 favorite, and the comeback on Burns is plus 160. Who do you got in this one?
Man, this is a good fight. I would say from a standpoint, you can't go wrong with betting either one. It really depends which Tyrone is gonna show up. And what I mean from that is, are we gonna get the Tyrone from Kamaru Usman? Or are we gonna get the hungry Tyrone who's coming out there to prove a point? Um, I believe we're gonna get the hungry Tyrone where it's like he's getting, I hate to say, a jiu-jitsu guy in Gilbert. Gilbert's not afraid to stand up, but I believe wrestling, and this is my own personal preference. I believe wrestling, high level wrestling, is always going to trump high level jiu-jitsu, and that's just me being a personal bias. And I would put that on anything from anyone who gets caught in a triangle, from anyone who gets caught in the armbar. If you take a high level D1, D2, if you take their levels and you compare it to wrestling versus jiu-jitsu, I'm always going to take the wrestler. So I think once you put those two skill sets on the ground together, who's going to show up? It really depends. Is Tyrone coming in focused and hungry, or is Gilbert going to be able to capitalize on this? Where I'm at, I know for my personal bets, I'm playing both sides. I'm playing any parlay that I play. I'm playing with Gilbert at the end, and I'm playing um,
Smart.
with Tyrone at the end because you can't go wrong.
Yeah.
With that said, where I'm at, I'm not playing this straight up. I think it's going to be a great fight for the fans. And what I mean by that is a great fight for the MMA fans, not your casual who wants to see Connor or wants to see Israel. I'm talking MMA fans who have been in the sport and know about Tyrone and Gilbert. I think it's a great fight for the fans because you get the classic wrestling versus jiu-jitsu clash with a little bit of striking. I think maybe Tyrone might have the edge. And what I mean by that is he has like the little secret potion. He's been down. I noticed he's been posting pictures down there in Atlanta with Manu. And if you know about Manu, that's where I actually come from. So I'm a little biased. But Manu is one of those guys who used to work with Ramon Deckers out in Muay Thai on the real era. And then you have Gilbert working with Henry Hoof, who comes from the Dutch era. So it's really interesting to see both ground specialists come into a striking battle. And same thing you saw with Damian Maya, where you get two ground guys and you have Gilbert finish him with a nice hook, a check hook.
That was
And that's
beautiful.
what I
Oof.
see. Yeah, that's what I see with this fight is I think the ground is going to neutralize each other. Tyrone's going to be hesitate about taking him down. Gilbert's going to be hesitate about going it to the ground. So you get an ugly striking battle. And then it's just about who developed more in the striking development. And I think, honestly, it's a coin flip. Any of these MMA fights, and that's what makes MMA so great, is you flip a coin and you see who shows up on the night. You see who's put in the work. You see who has really had been able to put it together and put it together that night. I mean, MMA is that type of sport where it's a dream and a nightmare of if you put it together and if it comes together that night, it's a great night. If there's something off, you're thinking about it for months and you're not going to be able to get it back for months. So I'm leaning towards playing a parlay on both sides. Whoever you think your best bets are, finish it off with Gilbert, finish it off with Tyrone, and you can't go wrong with either one of those as long as your other parlay parts are in sync.
Makes sense. I like that. Makes a lot of sense. I just can't wait for this fight. Like I said, I've been waiting for a while because I know Gilbert Burns has been campaigning it for a while, and Willie's been trying to get a bigger fight. He wants that
Yeah,
Kobe fight. He wants that payday, and I don't blame him because I mean this is a lose lose situation for him. He doesn't gain anything from beating Burns other than a paycheck, obviously. And then if he loses to Burns. He loses to a former 155er. That truly hasn't beaten anyone on the level of Woodley yet. So, losing to someone like Burns really takes him off. I could see if Burns finishes Woodley, we could see Woodley retire. I really do. I mean, I think we're getting towards the end of his career. I mean, he's rapping now. I think he's doing acting as well. I don't think he's 110% committed. I don't think he's hungry. I don't think he really wants. I don't think he's striving to be the champion again. I don't think he wants the pressure of being the champion again. I don't think he wants to go through that grind anymore at this stage of his career. Burns is in his prime. He's ready to go. He wants to fight for the belt. He wants to fight Usman for the belt eventually. I know they're training partners, but eventually it's going to happen one way or the other. And he's just super hungry. And, I know this is not short notice because Woodley was getting ready for Leon Edwards, but it's short notice enough where Woodley didn't get in like a super full-on camp for this. But Burns is ready for fights down the block from him right now, ready to go. Like that dude's always ready to fight. So it's one for the fans, and I do think we're gonna get a striking battle. And it really comes down to, is Woodley gonna be striking like he did against Usman, or is he gonna strike like he did against Darren Till? We don't know. That's the question mark. And laying minus 185 on a question mark like that, it's kind of hard for me. Because the thing with Burns, you already know what you're getting from him. He's going to throw combinations. He's got some pretty decent power, and he can submit anybody on the mat. Doubt this fight hits the mat. But if we're talking about volume to volume, Burns would win this fight just on volume alone. But Woodley has power. And Burns has not been hit at 170 yet. Like Woodley's going to hit him on Saturday night. So it's going to be interesting. I really do like that strategy where you're going to end each parlay with Burns or Woodley. So you're pretty much, once you get your 2 wins, you're locked in. So if you want to do that, I really do like to do Casey Kenny, Roosevelt Roberts, and then end with Burns or Woodley. You get those 2, you get a third in. I really do like that. I think that makes a lot of sense from a betting perspective. I'm going to take Burns. I'm playing a little bit on him. Obviously, he's one of my favorite fighters on the UFC roster, so I'm a little biased there. But we're getting a good line, plus 160, but I do like to those parlays, like you said, ending in Burns and Woodley. I'm doing that strategy as well. I can't wait for that fight. Can't wait for some more fights this week, next week, the week after that, and so on and so forth. And we're going to get back into it. Hopefully next weekend, if you're around, we can, get this thing going again for UFC 250. That's going to be a bonkers of a fight card. I can't wait. So that's pretty much it for this week's breakdown here on the Fighter and the Analyst. So, man, where can everyone find you on the social media?
Hey guys, you can find me on Instagram or Twitter, both at Why So Serious MMA, or Facebook, Peter Petties. Don't be weird because I will block you instantly if you send me any weird messages. Just got to remember, there's an athlete and a person. Don't be weird, you guys.
Don't be weird. Love it. Guys, as always, you can find me at Fight Analyst on Twitter and The Fight Analyst on Instagram and Facebook. Send me a message if you guys have any questions on some fights. If you want to buy my package, guys, it's only $25 for this weekend. We're going to make some money. I know, unfortunately, the last 2 fight cards we got shit on. I'm just going to be real with you. We got shit on. Lost like 4 decisions in the last fight. It was just, it was brutal. It was a brutal night. But with that said, we got to push forward. We're going to cash out this weekend. Like I said, you can go to thefightanalyst.com, buy our package there, or you can message me. We're packaging in this week and next week for $40. If not, this weekend is just $25. With that said, we'll talk to you guys later. We'll see you next week. You guys have a good one. Have a good night. We'll talk to you later. Adios.